Okay, good morning. We're learning as a schusser for Shlema Filan Chai Basarach and as a leaf of the Shema Meir ben Elazar. We are on Daf Ayin Dalit Amid Beis in the middle. Um, Amr of Shimon ben Lakish, about a little less than halfway down. Amr of Shimon Lakish. Livri hamater bechelvoi mater bedamai. In our Mishnah, we had the machlekes about a ben pakua, right? An animal that has a full-grown viable fetus inside of it. When you shecht the mother, Rameir says you still need to shecht the vlad, the ben pakua. The Chum say no, it's mutter. So he's saying, and we had said in the previous Gemara that it's gonna. This we said the Chacham over there is Rabbi Yehuda. So Reb Meir, who says that it needs another shchita, the chalev and the gid hanosha of that vlad is going to be aser. It's going to be treated as an independent animal, so it's gid hanosha and chalev is aser. And according to Rabbi Yehuda, who says it does need another shchita, then it's part of the mother. It's not considered to be an independent animal, and it's chalev. It's chalev and its gid hanosha is aser, is going to be mutter. I'm sorry. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, who says the chaylev as well as the gid anasha of this ben pakua is mutter. Mater bedamai. The dam of this, the dam, we always have to remove the dam from the basar of any kosher animal before you could eat it. He'll say, but the dam of this animal is not considered to be dam that's aser, as we're going to see in him soon. It's only it's not considered to be dam hanefesh. It's not, well, we'll see about that. But it's mater bedama. He says it's mutter. According to Rameir, who says that the chalev, that the ben bakua needs its own shchita, and therefore the chalev is aser, he's going to say the dam is also aser. Rav Yochanan Amar, that was Rav Shimon Lakish. Rav Yochanan says, "Aval divrei hamate bechalvai," even according to Rabbi Yehuda, who says that the chalev is mutter, oiser bedami. He'll agree that the dami is aser, like we said in the Mishnah. If you remember, the Mishnah said kairoi, but you still have to remove the dam, because the dam is the dam. Even the dam in the yerach, even the dam evarim is aser. We always have to remove the dam. It doesn't make a difference whether it's considered to be an independent animal. Eser Rabbi Yochanan Rav Shimon Lakish. Rabbi Yochanan asked Rav Shimon Lakish, how could you say that according to the Manda Amar that it's matir, that the chalev is mutter? Why we said in the Mishnah, Karmetzias damai. We said that you have to remove the dam. That's talking about even a non-viable animal. But where we said it's more like a chelek of the behemoth, where everyone had agreed that it's not going to be mutter with that it's going to be mutter through the mother. Amrav Zera loimesh ain't onish karas. So Zera says no. When we said that it's going to be mutter without that the dam is going to be mutter, it means to say not that it's fully mutter. It means to say just that it's not going to have a chi of karas. That means there's a man the Amar, as we're going to see, who says that even though dam is also with a chi of karas, that's only dam hanefesh. That's only the lifeblood. But the dam hatamsis, the blood that comes out after the original dam, the lifeblood dam, that's only a chiyuv with, that's only also with a lav, not with kars. So he says that this behema, it has no dam hanefesh, since it's considered part of the mother, even according to mandam that says it's mutter without a shchita, I'm sorry, according to mandam that says it's mutter without a shchita, it's still going to be aser for the dam with a lav for the dam that's not dam hanefesh. We're talking to Rabbi Yehuda, who says that this ben pakua is mutter la'ele dama tamtzis. But according to Rabbi Yehuda, even dama tamtzis has a chiv kars. The Tanya dama tamtzis bazhara Yehuda might be kars. So machlek is about whether dama tamtzis is just a lav or gets kars. Rabbi Yehuda is the mandam who says it's kars, and Rabbi Yehuda is the mandam of our Mishnah who says it's mutter. The ben pakua is mutter. So why are we saying that when Rabbi Yehuda, even according to Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yochanan said that is going to be also, and we're saying that just means it's also without a chiyuv kars, but Yehuda says there is a chiyuv kars. Tergum Rabbi Yezer Breder of Sel Chasida Kameder Papa is a Yehuda dam v'chol dam. Rabbi Yehuda says the pasuk says dam and kol dam to include it, which is a ribik. Kol hechad l'mchayiv adam nefesh m'chayiv adam tamtzis. Kol hechad l'mchayiv adam nefesh l'mchayiv adam tamtzis. He comes to say, even though Rabbi Yehuda says you could be chayiv al dam tamtzis, karis, that's only where it's possible to have a chayiv of dam nefesh. But since this ben pakua is precluded from, there's no such thing as dam nefesh in such a behema. Therefore, even the dama tamtzis does not have a chiyuv karis. I'm going to ask another question. Ibaylu, ma'u liftais beben pakua. This is look. I think it's all going. Yeah. So we're gonna say whether it's going in the Remei or the Rabban. But the ben pakua, right, is a vlad, an uber that's fully developed inside of the mother. You shech the mother. We had a machlekes where Meir says it still needs its own shchita, and the chacham say it doesn't. What's the din if you have such a ben pakua? The rule is that when a peter chamar is born, you have to be paid it. You could either be paid it with cash, or the Torah gives you another option. You could be paid it with a seh or a seh, or you can be paid it with a seh, which is or a goat. It was a lamb or a young lamb or a young kid, a baby goat. So in that case, you don't have, if you paid it with that, it doesn't have to be the value of the petach hamar. If you do it with cash, you have to do the full value. But you have another option. It can be paid with a seh or an ace or a tle. So what about this ben pakua? Does it have the status of a seh or an ace on its own? According to the mayor, it certainly is a seh. He says it's not part of the mother. When it's born, it needs its own shchita. It certainly could be used for a pigeon. But the question is going to Rabban who say that when you shecht the mother, the vlad does not need another shchita, so it's not considered to be an independent animal. It's part of the mother. Do we say since the mother's shchita is what's metaret, so it's treated like regular meat? You can't use meat of a seh to be paid. It has to be a live animal. So we treat this, since it's kosher to eat without a shchita, it's like meat that's ready to be cooked, and it's not eligible to be used for a pigeon of petach hamar. Or you say no, but this, even though this doesn't need shchita, but it's a live running around seh or ace. So therefore, it's perfectly valid to use to be paida your petach hamar. Mazutra Amar ain't paidin. Mazutra said no. It's since it's considered shachad, it's not able to be used for pigeon petach hamar. Ravashi are paidin. Ravashi says you can't be paid. Amali Ravashi Mazutra. He asked Mazutra, my daitach. Why do you say you can be paid? The Gomer says mipsachim. The reason why you're saying it's not eligible is because you learn it out from Psachim. The Torah makes a gzeira shava from the din of pigeon petach hamar to the din of a Pesach. So you're saying since this ben pakua is not eligible to be used for kachim, it can't be used for any kachim. Certainly can't be used for psachim. So therefore, that's the reason why we darshan from the gzeira shav that from Pesach that since it can't be used for psachim, it also can't be used for petach hamar. So that's the case. You should say all the limitations of psachim. It should have to be a zachar. It should have to be tamim. It can't have any mum. It has to be a year old. So tomorrow tifta riba. No, he would say the Torah says tifta. It says twice. It's to be marked by pigeon. That it doesn't have to have all the qualifications of a Pesach of being zachar tam ben shana. So tomorrow tifta riba afilu kol milanami. If that's the case, let's even say if it's a ben pakua, it should be included. It should be allowed to be used for petach hamar. So Gemara Cain says maya hanile. No, it's you have to balance. So we compare it to psachim legabe that it has to be born, it has to that Ben Bakua is not valid, but it's not considered like Psachim Legabe Zachar Tamim Ben Shana. Another question. Ibailu. Mao limnis by Rishon Visheni. What's the din if you have this Ben Pakua, again, this born, this, you shech the mother and you find a full grown, viable Vlad inside of it? So Rashi explains what happens if the mother, um, um, you shechted the mother, and then the mother became tame by touching some tuma. Does this vlad that's inside of it get? Does it get the same din? Is it considered to be part of the mother that it becomes a rishon l'tuma, or is it considered two separate steps? First, the mother became tame as a rishon and imparted tuma to the vlad inside of it as a sheni. Rabbi Yochanan says, yeah, the Vlad is the second step, and it is a din sheni l'tumah. It's like a nut inside of its shell. If the outside of the nut touches tumah, what's inside the shell is not a sheni because it touches the outside of the shell. It's all one thing. So this Vlad is also considered part of the mother, and it all becomes tamei tumas a rishon l'tumah. Esvei, Rav Shimon ben Lakish Rabbi Yochanan. Rish Lakish asks Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan says that the Vlad has a separate din and it becomes a sheni. Habasa magen avela. We say that we said in our Mishnah that if the Vlad stuck out a leg or a hand, that becomes tamei tumas, like it's essentially evim and achai, which has a tumah of nevela, and we say since it's touching the original, the vlad and the basar of the behema, they also become tamei tumas nevela. Divrei Meir, that's going to Meir. Rechaim disagree. They say no, since the mother was shechted, even that aver does not have a din of nevela; it only has a din of a treifa. So Bishlam Medida mean a chad gufahu, according to me, that I say it's all one guf. Hindus kasha b'dama dimeh. The question is, how can this this basa get a din? This vlad that we're saying becomes tame because it touched nevela. Where was it kochshel kabel tuma? Generally, oichlin need to be dunked in water to become. They need to become dunked in a liquid. They have to be covered. They have to get a liquid on them in order to be hoshel kabel tuma. The only liquid over here is when you shechted the mother, it got blood on top of it, and that was what machshel kabel tuma. But what does that have to do with this vlad? How did this vlad become hoshel kabel tuma? So he says, according to me, that it's all one thing. So I can understand when you machshel the mother with the dam of the shchita to a kabel tuma, it is also machshel the vlad. Eldach v'mayis kasher. Has it become hoshel kabel tuma? Amalei b'shchita krib Shimon. This is a shita we saw earlier that Shimon holds that whenever you shecht an animal comes hochshel kabel tum, it doesn't require a liquid. It's not the dam that's machsher, it's the shchita itself. And he says that shchita will not just cover the mother, will also cover the vlad. The shchita certainly applies to both of them, even if you hold it's not one guf, but the shchita is applying because we're saying that the vlad becomes a kosher to eat without any additional shchita. Rabbi Yochanan asks another question on Rish. Rabbi Yochanan asks on Rish Lakish. Rabbi Yochanan said it's Rishon v'Sheni. Rishon says it's all one thing. Aver over benar hoksha. If you have one of these ben pakuas, so it grew up. It left the mother. It was born after the shechita, and it's a fine, full-fledged animal, but it has a din of a ben bakua that doesn't eat shechita according to the rabbanon. So we say other benar. If that ben bakua then goes through a river, hoksha, it becomes hokshel kabel tuma halach lebeis hakfaros nitma, and if it goes into a beis hakfaros, it becomes tummy itself. So bishlam medina mina trei gufeinin. According to me, that the vlad is separate from its mother, mishum hachi huksher. That's why it needs to be huksher. It needs to go into water. Huksher in, loy huksher loy. That's why it needs the huksher. Lidach da'amet chad gufa hu haskasha b'dam medimah. Why does it need to go into the water? Once you shech the mother becomes tamei with the dam, even if we don't hold like Rav Shimon. So the vlad should also become huksher. So Gemara b'shchita yavishta. We're talking about where when you shechted the mother, there was no dam came out. Such a thing, it's possible to physically have a shchita without any dam. So therefore, the mother they become huksha b'kabel tuma, and it didn't apply to the vlad as well, even though you hold it, they're the same thing. Well, the like Rav Shimon, obviously we're not going to Rav Shimon, who says that once you have a shchita, it's not necessary to have liquid to have a mashka on it in order to become huksha b'kabel tuma. Who is this man Amar who says that this Vlad, when it goes into the Nar, it becomes Hukshal Kabal Tum, and it becomes Tame when it goes into the Beis Hakvar. So Rabbi Yechon Glili. This is according to Rabbi Yechon Glili in the following machlekes. The Tanya. Shimon Laz Omer. Shimon Rabbi Yechon Glili. Metama Tumas Eichlet. A Ben Pakua can become Tame with a Tumas Eichlin. Generally, the rule is that a live animal is not able to become tamei at all. It's not capable of becoming tamei, right? If you meet an animal in the street, you don't have to worry about whether it touched an avela, it touched a mace. You have no idea what it did. But a ben pakua, Rabbi Yossi Aglili says it's different since it already has a din that it's shachat. So it's treated as an eichel. Doesn't need shchita, so therefore come tamei tumas eichlin, and it needs hechsher on its own. They say it's precluded from becoming tamei since it's alive. They say it can't become tamei tumas eichlin. Rabbi Yochanan's understanding of Rabbi Yosef Galili, that he says that it's unable, that it can become tumas eichlin. That's l'shitasa. The Amar Rabbi Yechon, Rabbi Yosef Glili, Beishamai Amru Davar Echad. Beishamai agrees with Rabbi Yosef Glili. There is a Glili Hadamar, and that which we saw Rabbi Yosef Glili, that the Ben Pakua can become Tomei. Beishamai the Tnan. Dog ememas el kabel tomo. When can a fish become capable of being kabel tomo? Beishamai Amrim Mishiyatsudu. As soon as you trap it. So you see, Beishamai holds, even though the fish is still alive, it's in the trap. But since it became trapped, it's now capable of being eaten. Doesn't need any shchita, obviously. So it's already fully ready to be eaten. It's a food. Even though it's alive, it has a din that it can be makabel tumas. That's the same as Rabbi Yisrael Glili. He says a ben pakua. Even though it's alive, it's capable of being makabel tumah. Basil and Mishiyah Musu. Basil says it has to first die in order to be makabel tumah. Rabbi Kiva splits the difference. He says it doesn't have to be dead, but as soon as it's, if you take it out of the water, and you can see the simanim on it, that even if you were to put it back in the water, it's already terminally ill, it's definitely going to die. So at that point, it becomes a full-fledged food that it can be makabel tum. My benai, what's the difference between Rabbi Kiva and the Chachamim, and Beis Hillel, I'm sorry. In either case, the animal's going to die or it did die. A dog that's flopping around, that's going to die, but it didn't die yet. According to Rabbi Kiva, it already is able to be makabel tomo. According to Beis Hillel, you have to wait till it actually dies. What happened if you have a fish that got in its simani treifa? So is that enough that it's treated according to Rabbi Kiva? Rabbi Kiva says as soon as it's not able to live anymore, it's going to die. Does it have also the din that, like we say a treifa, we say it has its din and you're not allowed to eat it. Now obviously a fish, there's no such thing as simani treifa to make it asa to eat. But his question is, does the simanim treifa make it like Rabbi Kiva said, they say the siman treifa makes it that it's not able to live. You could ask this question even according to the Mandamba. It's not clear exactly what a treif is. Is a treif something that could live 30 days or a year, but it's eventually going to die? That's one Mandamba. There's one Mandamba that says treif ain't a chay, that it can't live more than 30 days or more than a year, whatever The different shitas. Tiboy lamandam a treifa chaya. Even according to Mandam, it says that a treifa could live, let's say, a behema than a fisha chayusa. That's only a behema because behemoths are more vital, they're more robust than a fish. A fish is always easily dies as soon as it leaves the water. But behema than a fisha chayusa that could live longer. Aval dagam loy a fisha chayusa loy. It doesn't live so long. Even so, Rabbi Kiva would agree that it has some money treifa. It would immediately become hukshul kabbalah. Why do I feel mandam a treifa enechai? Even according to mandam, the treifa is not able to live. That's a behema that something that there is shchita on it. So therefore it has a din treifa. Aval dagam the emin and shchita. Maybe not. Maybe the treifa is not going to make a difference. We're not going to treat it. It's only because there's a shchita on a behema. But we take away the ability to be shachted because of the treifa, even though it's treifa and chaya. But a fish, maybe even though treifa and chaya, that will not be enough since it doesn't have the din shchita. It's irrelevant that it became a treifa according to Rabbi Kiva. The Gemara tekel. We leave it as a tekel. Hitila nefa. What happens if a animal gave it birthed a stillborn baby? It was 8 months. It's not viable. Rabbi Yochanan Amar Chelva kechelev behema. Rabbi Yochanan says the chelev of this stillborn animal is like a chelev of a behema. It's going to be also to eat. It's going to be in chayav alav if someone eats it. Shimon Lakish Amar Chelva kechelev chaya. He says no. It's like the chelev of chaya. The chelev of chaya is mutter. This it's not mamash. It doesn't mean that it's like a chaya. What it means to say is it's going to be mutter because this chelev is not considered to be the chelev of a separate animal. It's just the vlad of this stillborn fetus, this non-viable fetus, which is just a separate part of the mother. It doesn't have its own chelev. He says it's like the chelev behema. Once it the mother gives birth to it, even though it's stillborn, it's looked on as its own behema, and therefore it has chelev. He says no, it needs to have a sufficient amount of months that should be viable. This Nefa was only 8 months. It was never viable, so it's not considered, even though it's born by the mother, it's not considered to be a separate viable entity that it could have its own chelev. That's one version of this question. Iked Amri, or this machlokes. Iked Amri, kol eichad loy kol chadashav loy klumu. Everyone will agree if it's not viable that the chelev will be mutter because it's not considered to be a separate animal. Keep the heichad the hoyshe yadel me behima v'tos chelev shall ben teth. We're talking about where there is a viable animal inside of the mother, and the veterinarian stuck his hand in and took some of the chelev from the fetus, from a live fetus that's fully viable. Rabbi Yochanan will say it's going to be aser because it's a fully viable animal. It has its own existence, and therefore its chelev is chelev because it had sufficient months for it to grow. So it's viable. He says the chelev is mutter. You need not just that it should be viable, it also has to be born. This was never born. You took the chelev out from the mother, from inside the mother, so it's not considered to be a separate entity to have chelev. Rabbi Yochanan asks Rav Shimon Lakish that he says that you're not going to be chayav for this chelev. The din is that you have to put the chelev of an animal and the shtei kloyos, the two kidneys, they have to be burnt on the mizbeach with the emurim. But that's not valid. There's no such thing as but that's not going to be valid by a fetus. The chelev and shtei kloyos. If you bring a carbon of a pregnant animal, the chelev and shtei kloyos of the fetus don't have to go on the mizbeach. Why not? Because the Torah says includes an ashram. An ashram can only be a male, so it never has a fetus on it. So therefore, it never has a shlil. It never has a fetus inside. So it's precluded. So every animal, even if it does have a fetus, is going to be included since it's compared to the ashram, which does not have it. So according to me, did I say theoretically, the vlad is a separate entity, and its chelev would be aser. So that's why we have to tell you that the kleis, the chaylev and the shtei kleis don't go on the mizbech, because otherwise I would think it is a separate entity. Elidah chamay yitztrich. He said, what do you need a pasuk for? Amalei tamidi nami hacha. That's exactly where I get my shita from. It's from this pasuk. Don't ask me a question why the pasuk have to tell it. That's where I know that from the fact that we have a drasha to exclude the chaylev and shtei kleis from going on the mizbech. That's how I know that the chaylev is taka not going to be regarded as chaylev. V'ekadami, another version of this discussion, Eser of Shimon ben Lakish Rabbi Yochanan, or Shimon Reish Lakish asked Rabbi Yochanan. You're saying that the chaylev is also. What about this drasha? Machel v'shtei kleis ambus ba'asher moitze mechal shlil avkol moitze mechal shlil bishlam edim mishem hachim miyat rachmana. According to me, that's what the Torah is telling you, that it's not considered to be chaylev. Elidach likarv. Why taka can't it be karv if you're saying the child, the fetus is a separate entity? He says, although it's a separate entity, but it still can't be brought on the base in the base hamikdash as a carbon, as a murim. Just like for the first 7 days that the animal is born, it's not allowed to be brought as a carbon. So certainly this fetus is excluded from being brought as a murim. Amr of Rabbi Ami. Hashoichet es hatreifel motzaba ben teschai. Now we're talking about, we're mixing together a couple of things we've seen, right? A treifa can't be, if you shech the treifa, it doesn't become an avela, but it's also to eat. You shechted this treifa, and you found a ben paku inside of it. So now everything's going to be flipped around. So we had a machlekes about what's the din of a ben pakur. Rameir says a ben pakur needs its own shchita. According to the Chachamim, Rabbi Yehuda, it's mutter to eat without a shchita. So divrei ha'oser, according to Rameir, who says that it needs its own shchita, matir. If you shech this ben pakur from a treifa, it doesn't get the status of its mother. Just like it needs its own shchita, if it's not a treifa, even if it is a treifa, it's able to get you could shecht it and it will be mutter, because it's its own thing. But according to the Rabbi Yehuda, who's chaylik, it says that ben pakua is mutter without a shchita, this will be also because it's part of the mother, and the mother is also al treifa, and it also, this vlad will also have the din treifa. Rava disagrees. He says it's not going to be dependent. The divrei hamater nami mutter. Even according to the Rabbi Yehuda, who says a ben pakur is mutter. If you have a ben pakur of a treif, it will still be mutter with a shchita. Dalit samanim achshabei rachmana. We say a ben pakur doesn't need shchita because it becomes mutter with the shchita of the mother, but it's just an option. You also still have the option. The Torah said all 4 samanim can be machshed. So the mother's shchita can be machshed, but if that's not available, like in this case, where it's a treifa, the 2 simanim of the vlad can also be machshur. Amar of Chizda, Hashoichet es hatreifa motzah ben teschai. In this case that we just discussed, you shechted a treifa and you found inside of it a fully live, viable fetus. Ton shchita, it needs its own shchita. So we're going, since she's also al treifa, so therefore her shchita cannot be matrid. It needs its own shchita. And it's considered to be its own entity. Whenever you shecht an animal, you always have to give the zroya, which is its leg, and its the lechayim, which is the jaw, va'akeva, which is one of the inner organs. You have to give that. But if it dies, it's not going to be considered to be an avela, because it has the din of its mother. Its mother was a treifa, so it also gets a din that it's not an avela. Amalei Rava, ton shchita, that what you say in shchita command karameh. That's like Rameh who says that a vlad does not need its own shchita. V'meis tar milatam b'masa command, but you're saying that it has a din of the mother, that it's not going to become an avela command karabanan. That's like the Rabbanan who disagree with Rameh that say that it does get the din of the mother. He says it's a stira. So he asked him back. We have a brisa which essentially says the same thing. So meis tarm la tam b'masa. Ton shchita kaman karamet. V'meis tarm la tam b'masa karabanan. L'chayr, it's the same stira in this brisa of Rav Chia, like you just pointed out in the memra of Rav Chizda. What's the difference? So Gemara Holy Kasha. Rav Chia im kfar matzu meis kama. Even though it sounds like he was saying the same thing as Rav Chizda, it says the imeis tar milatama b'mas. It says if it's dead, then you have to. It's not going to become an avail. It doesn't mean if it was born and then it died later. He understands that. The case of Ruchi is talking about where when you shechted the treifa, you found a dead nafel inside of it, a full-fledged animal, but it was already dead, the fetus. So then it's part of the mother, and it's going to get the din treifa that's not going to come an avail. Elidach kasha, but it's still shver on you. The meis tar milatama, you don't have that option to understand it that way. You didn't explain that it's talking about. You didn't say that that's the case. But meis tar milatama is talking about what was already meis when it was born. It's not shver me anyway. Dalit simanim achshabei rachmana. I hold like Rava. Rava says that it is the vlad is kosher, but it also has the option of being shechted on its own. It is part of the mother to that the shechita of the mother will kosher, but it also has the option that you could shecht it on its own. So that's what it means. That the treifa, the shechita of a treifa is not going to be matter, but it still has the option to shecht its own shechita in order to be macher. But it's still going to have the din of the mother. Like we said, the shechita of the mother does apply to it, according to Rava, because the dalit semanim, it could be the semanim of the mother or the semanim of the vlad. So the semanim of the semanim of the mother, shechita of the mother, will help that it's not going to become an avail. Instead, it will be a treifa. Ravasi was saying this din, this chap, that the animal, like Rava said, it can have both, that it's not going to be an avela because of the mother, but it will need its shchita, it will have its own shchita to be machsher. Amal yasher. He said it's a very good word. And Rabbi Yochanan says the same thing. We know Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish are always arguing. He's saying this is what Rabbi Yochanan said. Does that mean that Reish Lakish was chaylak on it? So he said no. Mesha havishoyle v'shasikle. He said Reish Lakish always used to. Reish Lakish would absorb what Rabbi Yochanan said and think about it and then respond. And I had to leave before he responded. So I don't know if Reish Lakish disagreed. And others say that Rish Lakish was in the middle of taking a drink when Rabbi Yochanan said this, and he didn't, therefore his mouth was full of water, he couldn't respond, so I don't know if he was chaylik on him or not. I wasn't there to hear. I had to leave before he finished drinking, and I didn't hear how he responded. Okay, we're going to have to stop over here.
Yes, correct.